I'd always thought of myself as one of life's golden boys, the sole heir to the Vance family fortune, a top-tier university degree under my belt, young, rich, and with a beautiful fiancée. If that wasn't winning at life, what was? That all changed the night before I was due to fly home. My assistant, face grim, handed me a thick file. Staring at the blood-red ink of the investigation results, I finally understood. I was nothing more than a pawn, a sacrificial lamb my own family was preparing to discard. The good news? I still held the reins at Vance Holdings. The bad news? My father, likely assuming I was isolated and powerless overseas, had let the bastard walk right into our lives. He'd even introduced my fiancée, to him. The two most powerful families in Chicago, conspiring to screw over one person, me. Fine. If that's how they want to play it, we'd see whose game was stronger. Soon enough, the Vance and Hayes empires would be mine alone. And when Sophia Hayes was on her knees, begging, all she would get was my contempt. There's a certain thrill to building an empire, to watching the numbers climb. Once you have enough capital, beautiful women are the least of your worries. As for the traitors, let them tear each other apart. With trash like that, you don't have to get your own hands dirty. Just toss a piece of meat into the cage and watch them fight. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. We are beginning our final descent and are expected to arrive at O'Hare International Airport in approximately 30 minutes. The flight attendant's gentle voice pulled me from my thoughts. I opened my eyes, the dark reflection in the window showing a stranger's cold expression. A year. I've been gone a year. I wondered what kind of welcome Sophia had planned. I picked up my phone, my gaze falling on the screen. Her last message was still there. Ethan, I'll be at the airport to pick you up. Wait for me. Red heart. A cruel smile twisted my lips. A woman whose heart wasn't even mine anymore. Did she really think I believed she'd remember to show up? It took a moment to rein in the fury. I was still too young, too emotional. I rubbed my temples, trying to ease the throbbing headache. A year ago, Sophia had already betrayed me. She'd promised we'd plan the wedding as soon as I got back from my assignment abroad. Yet the moment I was gone, she was wrapped up with that bastard. Thinking about the past year, my heart hammered against my ribs. My mind flashed back to the file. Sophia and I had grown up together. Our engagement was a foregone conclusion, an unspoken pact between our families for years. What on earth could have made her turn her back on all of it? My fists clenched, my knuckles white, as I tried to solve the puzzle that had tormented me for months. But there were no answers. Following the stream of people out of the arrivals hall, I took a deep breath of the stale, recycled air. To be honest, a part of me was terrified she might actually be here. But life isn't about avoiding problems. It's about plowing through them. As for whether Sophia would show up, I was certain she wouldn't. Not despite her promise, but because of it. 30 minutes later, I was standing with my suitcase in the arrivals lobby, scanning the crowd. My driver was there, but Sophia was nowhere in sight. My assistant saw the thundercloud forming on my face. Mr. Vance, he said quietly. Ms. Hayes is at the Sovereign Hotel. She's hosting a birthday party for a Mr. Caleb Reed. What are your instructions? I gave a cold, sharp nod. Caleb Reed, the man from the file. My father, ever the coward, still hadn't officially acknowledged his illegitimate son. For now, he'd arranged for Caleb to work at Hayes Industries as Sophia's assistant. Just then, my assistant spoke again, his voice barely a whisper. Sir, Ms. Hayes booked the Celestial Room, the hotel's rooftop restaurant, for Mr. Reed's party tonight. I closed my eyes. I wasn't surprised. Not in the least. Take me to the Sovereign, I said. The city lights blurred past the window. My phone remained silent. Sophia was probably too busy having the time of her life to even bother with an excuse. The tension in the car was so thick my assistant hardly dared to breathe. I'd had a year to process everything, to connect the dots. As far as my family was concerned, I was already a ghost. On paper, I was the young master of the Vance family, the sole heir. But in reality, there was another heir, one raised in the shadows, my father's bastard son with his mistress, the one who didn't even dare use the Vance name. And Sophia? She never had to choose. She would marry whoever was heir to Vance Holdings, whoever could bring her family the most wealth. If it were an 80-year-old man on his deathbed, she'd still look him in the eye and whisper, I love you without shame. She was just that pragmatic. When the car pulled up to the grand entrance of the Sovereign Hotel, my phone finally buzzed. A text from Sophia. Ethan, I'm so sorry. A last-minute emergency meeting came up. I sent the driver for you. I'll make it up to you tomorrow, okay? We'll do a proper welcome home dinner. A meeting? A welcome home dinner? The woman couldn't even lie convincingly. With a chilling smile, I stepped out of the car and walked toward the elevators. My heart was a storm of rage, but my mind was perfectly, frighteningly calm. They wanted to play games with me? Too bad. I never was one to accept the fate others chose for me. The entrance to the rooftop restaurant was flanked by bodyguards. They moved to block me, but one look at the ice in my eyes, and they wisely stepped aside. Taking a moment to compose myself, I slowly pushed open the doors. Under the soft, ambient lighting, Sophia stood with her back to me, speaking intimately with a handsome man in a tailored suit. Whatever she was saying must have been amusing, because he kept laughing, their hands brushing against each other in casual, familiar touches. I stood there for a long moment, tempted to pull out my phone and live stream the whole pathetic scene. A lifetime of shared memories, all of it a lie. In just 1 year, I had finally seen this woman for who she really was. I raised a hand, silencing the few guests who recognized me, and it started to look uncomfortable. Sophia. My voice was quiet, but it cut through the room. She spun around, her face instantly draining of color. Ethan, what are you? I cut her off before she could finish. I heard you were in an important meeting, I said, my voice dripping with false concern as I strode toward her. I came straight from the airport to help. My words hung in the air, each one a slap in the face. I stopped in front of them, my eyes landing on Caleb, a smirk playing on my lips. He had my father's handsome features, for sure, with an added dose of his mother's cheap beauty. Caught completely off guard, Caleb looked flustered. It seems I've come at a bad time, I said with a smile, though the sound of my voice had the warmth of a Siberian winter. My apologies for the interruption. I paused, letting the tension build. And you must be Mr. Reed, her new assistant. Happy birthday. In fact, I brought you a gift. With a flick of my wrist, the security team I'd brought with me swarmed into the room. Before Caleb could react, they had him on his knees. Sophia's face flushed with anger. Ethan Vance, what do you think you're? I held up a hand, shaking my head slightly. Sophia, don't forget, you're still my fiancée. We can deal with the future later, but right now, my family's name will not be disgraced. The restaurant fell silent. Caleb, clearly out of his depth, didn't dare say a word. He just shot a desperate, pleading look at Sophia. Ethan, let me explain, she said, taking a step toward me. I ignored her completely, turning to my head of security. It's Mr. Reed's birthday. We should show him some professional courtesy. After all, he is your assistant. I smiled coldly at Sophia. No bloodshed. Just have him kneel here for 2 hours. That should be sufficient. I turned back to Sophia, savoring the panic in her eyes. Explain what? I asked, my voice light and cheerful. You were just celebrating your assistant's birthday. I completely understand. Sophia froze, the excuses she'd prepared dying in her throat. Caleb's face was a mask of humiliation. He opened his mouth to beg, but one of my men silenced him with a sharp backhand across the face. I used a finger to tilt Sophia's chin up, my expression mocking as I stared into her eyes. There's a family dinner at the Vance estate tonight. A welcome home party for me. As my fiancée, it wouldn't be right for you to miss it. Let's go. Her body went rigid for a second, but she recovered quickly. You're right. I should go pay my respects to Mr. Vance. She glanced at Caleb, wanting to say something, but the words wouldn't come. Seeing me already walking toward the door, she grit her teeth and followed. Caleb was left kneeling on the floor, his face a mixture of fury and shame. But with my men standing over him like wolves, he ultimately bowed his head. In everyone's eyes, he was just some illegitimate son who couldn't be acknowledged. I was the true heir to Vance Holdings. Since they weren't interested in revealing his identity, he could kneel there as the assistant. Once we were outside the hotel, Sophia visibly relaxed. Ethan, today, was a complete misunderstanding, she began, trying to take my arm. I just thought, as his boss, I should show some concern for my employee. I pulled away smoothly, my tone just as gentle. Of course. I get it. He's a handsome kid. If she wanted to play dumb, I'd let her. It was almost better this way, to chalk up her treachery to a simple, foolish affair. In the car, Sophia's phone screen lit up. Ich glanced over. It was a message from Caleb. Sophia, I won't let him get away with this. Vance Holdings will be mine. She quickly locked the screen, but I'd already seen it. Pretending I'd noticed nothing, I turned to look out the window, a cold smile forming on my lips. If they wanted to play, we would play. I hadn't spent the last year abroad, just wasting time. Psychological warfare? It was my favorite game. 30 minutes later, the car pulled up to the old Vance family estate. The welcome home dinner was being held in the main dining room. When I pushed open the doors, my father froze, his fork halfway to his mouth. I saw the smile on his face instantly curdle. The moment he saw Sophia with me, he knew his little game was up. What's wrong, father? I asked sweetly. Not happy to see me? Or is it Sophia you're not happy to see? A strange, heavy silence filled the room. My father was the first to recover, forcing a stiff smile. Of course not. I just heard Sophia was busy tonight. I didn't expect her to come in person. I walked straight to my seat at the table and gestured for Sophia to sit beside me. She hesitated, looking cornered, but had no choice. She sat down, perching on the edge of her chair like she was sitting on needles. No matter how busy she is, she's still my fiancée, I said, taking my seat opposite my father and staring him down. We haven't seen each other in a year. Naturally, she missed me. Tiny beads of sweat began to form on his forehead. I politely served Sophia some food from a platter. Father, Sophia hired a new assistant. A remarkably handsome young man, I said conversationally. And you know, the strangest thing is, he bears a striking resemblance to you. You don't think he could be related to us, do you? The sound of a fork clattering onto the marble floor was deafening. My father choked on his food, coughing violently. Ethan, how could that be? You know all our relatives. My eyes moved from him to Sophia. Oh, I just assumed Sophia was showing the boy special favor on account of his connection to the Vance family. Why else would she book out the most expensive hotel in Chicago just to throw a birthday party for a junior assistant? That's quite a gesture, isn't it? The silence in the room was now absolute. Ethan, whatever you have to say, let's talk about it when we get home, Sophia finally hissed, unable to take it anymore. She grabbed my arm and pulled me out of the dining room. Once in the hall, she turned on me, her face dark with anger. Ethan Vance, what is your problem? Are you really going to humiliate me like this over some assistant? Is this because I didn't pick you up from the airport? I grabbed her by the throat. Her face quickly flushed as she struggled for air. My problem? I whispered. I just want to know when the two of you started screwing around. Her pupils contracted. She couldn't speak. A cold laugh escaped my lips. I was done with this woman, but Hayes Industries. That was still a very tempting prize. Take a guess how I deal with things that have been soiled. Did you really think that just because I was gone for a year, I'd sit back and play the fool? Panic finally broke through her composure. I can explain. Sophia tried to appeal to my sense of reason. Ethan, stop making a scene. You're putting your father in a difficult position, and this isn't good for the partnership between our families. I let out a cold, humorless laugh and shoved her hand away. Embarrassed now, are you, Sophia? But you weren't embarrassed when you were sneaking around with some other man behind my back. Don't think I'll go easy on Caleb just because he's my father's bastard. You're more pathetic than I thought. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Your family just wants to latch onto the Vance fortune. I never realized how dirty you were willing to get. I continued, my voice dripping with contempt, unsure of who the next heir will be. So you play both sides? Hedging your bets? Very clever. Hearing me lay it all out so bluntly, Sophia finally panicked. After all, at this moment, I was still the one calling the shots at the company. Ethan, I cut her off. Don't say my name. It makes me sick. As of today, we're finished. I threw the words at her and turned to leave. But she grabbed my arm, her grip surprisingly strong. Ethan, I know I was wrong. I really do. Let's just talk this through. I swear, there's nothing going on with Caleb, she pleaded. I was only looking out for him because of your father. He's your brother, after all. Just give me one more chance. I laughed and shook her off. A chance? You think you deserve another chance? Who the hell do you think you are? In my eyes, you're nothing but a toy I can pick up or throw away whenever I please. Now she was truly desperate, clinging to my arm, her voice cracking. That's not what I meant. Ethan, I really do love you. That Caleb guy. I looked down at her, my eyes devoid of any warmth. Save it. Your love is cheap. Does Caleb know you're my fiancé? Does he know what a worthless slut you are? Her face went pale, but she was still trying to salvage the situation. Of course he knows. And he respects me. He knows I'm his future sister-in-law. This was pointless. Wasting time on trash. This pathetic conversation had to end. I shoved her away from me. My dear, sweet little brother. Taking such good care of his sister-in-law. I sneered. You must be good care too. Did you enjoy yourself in his bed? Want to see the pictures? It's fine, stay with him. From this day forward, all business ties between Vance Holdings and Hayes Industries are severed. Sophia crumpled to the floor, grabbing at my pant leg, her eyes filled with desperation. Ethan, I'm begging you, don't leave me. Can't we start over? I promise I'm clean. You can check if you don't believe me. I leaned down and grabbed her by the neck, my voice a low growl. Start over? Do you really think that's possible? I'm not interested in garbage. With that, I turned and walked out of the estate without a backward glance. Just as I was about to get into my car, my father caught up with me. Ethan, don't be so impulsive. The partnership between our families isn't something you can just terminate on a whim, he said, his voice strained. Besides, Sophia still loves you. I was the one who asked her to look after Caleb. I pushed him away coldly. That bastard is your son, isn't he? Impressive. Only a year younger than me. Why don't you have the guts to let him take the family name? And looking after him means sleeping with him? Don't tell me you didn't know. My father sighed, a look of defeat on his face. Ethan, I didn't tell you about Caleb because I didn't want you to overthink things. Let's not dredge up past mistakes. As for their relationship, you've definitely misunderstood. I would never allow the future matriarch of the Vance family to do something like that. I laughed to sound sharp and cynical. Misunderstood? Then I guess the private investigator I hired must be incompetent. He was still trying to cover for them. Ethan, be more magnanimous. What you see with your own eyes isn't always the truth. The company will be in your hands one day. Making rash judgments will only create enemies. I pulled open the car door. You're right. What you see isn't always the truth. That includes everything you're saying right now, doesn't it? I paused, looking him dead in the eye. Once some things are done, there's no going back. And once trust is lost in a family, it's not a family anymore. Back at my penthouse, I locked myself in my study. I knew everything already, but seeing it with my own eyes was a different beast than reading it in a report. The whole thing felt surreal. A perfect corporate merger, a marriage made in heaven, derailed by a single bastard son. How'd it come to this? I thought back on all the moments we'd shared, the good and the bad, and then I thought about the plans I'd set in motion over the past year. My mind began to clear. There was no point wasting energy on people and things that were already lost. If the Vance family wanted to replace me as heir, I'd burn the whole damn house down and rebuild it from the ashes. And if the Hayes family didn't want a clean and simple alliance, then they didn't need to exist at all. I opened my laptop and started a series of encrypted video calls. By the time the meetings were done, I looked around my home. Traces of Sophia were everywhere. Even in an arranged marriage, I had tried. I didn't want to sleep next to a cold, emotionless doll. Besides the photos, the shelves were filled with gifts she'd given me. I picked up a wristwatch, turning it over in my hands. After a long moment, I placed it back in its box. These things used to mean the world to me. Now they just made me sick. Just a pile of trash. Better to throw it all out. As I was bagging up the garbage, my assistant called. Mr. Vance, the Rossi family would like to meet with you. They said they have a business proposal. I was momentarily confused. The Vances and the Rossis moved in the same Chicago circles, but we weren't close. Still, after a moment's thought, I agreed. Hayes Industries was much stronger today than it had been 10 years ago, largely thanks to their engagement with me. I wasn't entirely confident I could take them down alone. If the Rossis wanted to team up, that would be perfect. Everything the Vances had given them, I would take back. With interest, I opened my phone and saw dozens of missed calls and messages from Sophia. I ignored them all. They were undoubtedly about my order for Vance Holdings to cut all ties with her family. My father was furious, I was sure, but until he could convene a board meeting, I was still in charge. And even then, it would take at least a week. Besides, as bad as it looked to betray an ally, the profits we'd make from devouring their market share would speak for themselves. Across the table at a quiet cafe sat a stunningly beautiful woman. Isabella Rossi was dressed in a chic, cream-colored pantsuit, her long legs elegantly crossed. Her auburn hair fell in soft waves around her shoulders, giving her a look that was both professional and alluring. Ethan Vance, she said, a playful glint in her eye. You're a cruel man. Back in town for this long, and you don't even think to call an old friend. I shrugged, a small smile on my face. She always loved to tease. I knew damn well she was aware of everything going on with my family. In Chicago's elite circles, you could find out if someone's cat had kittens, and whether they were male or female, within the hour. Isabella, don't give me a hard time. I'm about to be disowned and cast out on the street. I was just about to start planning my escape. Her laughter was like music. After a moment, her expression turned serious. You can fool everyone else, Ethan, but you can't fool me. That illegitimate half-brother of yours, Caleb, he's not even qualified to shine your shoes. This isn't just your father's wishful thinking. Even if he calls a board meeting, the shareholders will never agree. No one is going to risk their own money on a nobody. She paused, then finally got to the point. She gracefully tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. The little girl I knew was gone. A formidable woman sat in her place. I wondered which lucky bastard would one day win her over. Ethan, the Rossi family has significant partnerships with Hayes Industries. We can cut off their cash flow for you, she said, her eyes locked on mine. However, that would mean taking a substantial loss ourselves. You'd have to compensate us, of course. Seeing her so direct and businesslike, I smiled. I like this. Business was business. Problems that could be solved with money were the best kind of problems. I nodded, opened my briefcase, and slid a folder across the table. It was all prepared. The Rossi family's angle wasn't hard to guess. Naturally, Take a look at this, Isabella. It's a sign of my good faith. Once this is all over, we split Hayes Industries 50-50. I'll assume all the risk. How's that sound? To my surprise, she didn't even touch the folder. A captivating smile played on her lips. Not good enough. We don't want Hayes Industries. We want half of your overseas project. My brow furrowed. That project was the Vance family's biggest secret. I had spent the entire last year laying the groundwork for it. After a long silence, I shook my head. Isabella, I don't know how you found out about that, but it's impossible. Half of that project is worth billions. The Rossi family is asking for far too much. I am sorry. Perhaps we can work together some other time. The negotiation was clearly over. I stood up to leave, but she stopped me. Ethan, wait. Hear me out. I sat back down. She leaned forward, a devastatingly beautiful smile on her face. I know you won't give up that project. The profits are too massive, and our help in this matter isn't worth that much. But there's a reason we're asking for half. Once you absorb Hayes Industries, your position in Chicago, your position, Ethan Vance, will be untouchable. She paused, then leaned even closer, her voice dropping to a husky whisper. And what do you think of me? She subtly pushed her chest forward. A button on her blouse strained, offering a tantalizing glimpse. Isabella, are you trying to proposition me into a hostile takeover? I said, my voice a little tight. She leaned in again, her assets on full display. It was a dizzying sight. Don't you want to test drive? Whatever you want to play tonight, it's on me. My brain screamed at me to resist, to negotiate, but my mouth was faster. You. The word hung in the air, and I instantly regretted it. Great, she said, grinning like a Cheshire cat. I've already booked the room. She giggled. Don't look so shocked, Ethan. The family supports this. Otherwise, they wouldn't have sent me to this meeting. Look, the Rossi empire is huge, and I don't have any real claim to it. I might as well marry a good husband. I promise you, what happened with Sophia Hayes will never happen again. We've known each other since we were kids. You can trust me, can't you? I leaned across the table and captured her lips. After a long, searing kiss, I pulled back, a wicked grin on my face. All right, my dear fiancé. The Rossi family moved with lightning speed. Within 24 hours, they had choked off the cash flow to Hayes Industries. What followed was a relentless, brutal assault from Vance Holdings. The past week had been good, very good. My days were split between dismantling our rival and spending time with Isabella. And she was a woman of her word. Surprisingly, I had been her first. For 7 straight days, we were practically inseparable, engrossed in our own private mergers and acquisitions. I was the first to wave the white flag. Ethan, darling, she purred, a wicked smile on her face. This is a brand new car with 0 miles on it. Are you telling me you're tired of driving it already? Looking at the vixen beside me, I surrendered completely. The woman was a professional. She had a library of foreign films she insisted we study to advance human knowledge. Isabella, my love, even the most dedicated technician needs a break. Besides, if I don't come up for air soon, I might get carsick. She had become utterly shameless. All of her initial shyness gone. Carsick? Well, there's a simple cure for that. A wedding. You're not thinking of hitting and running, are you? There was no winning with her. She shot me a smoldering look and gracefully slipped on a pair of silk stockings. Come on, my handsome mechanic. We have a busy day ahead. I was confused. As far as I knew, my schedule was clear. Do we have something special planned today? She looked at me with mock exasperation. Hayes Industries is hosting a signing ceremony today. You're coming with me. At the event, I saw Sophia again. She was on Caleb's arm, making no effort to hide their connection. He was dressed in a ridiculously expensive custom suit, a limited edition watch flashing on his wrist. If I remember correctly, that was the same watch I was supposed to give him as an engagement present for Sophia. Isabella pinched my side gently. Ethan, darling, she's publicly slapping you in the face. I took a sip of champagne and pulled Isabella closer, my arm around her waist. Oh, you just reminded me. I forgot to officially call off the engagement. We'll issue a statement when we get back. We don't keep trash. The moment Sophia saw me, she tensed. Then, her face darkening, she stormed over. Ethan Vance. Caleb smirked, making a show of holding her back. Sophia, dear, control yourself. Oh, I forgot to mention. In the past week, my father had officially announced Caleb's identity to the public. I chuckled, completely unfazed by Sophia's murderous glare. Ms. Hayes, is there something I can help you with? If not, please keep yourself and your new boyfriend at a distance. My girlfriend is a bit of a germaphobe. She can't stand being near garbage. Sophia blocked my path, reaching for my arm. Ethan Vance? What is the meaning of this? We haven't broken off our engagement yet. I took 2 steps back and waved my hand in front of my face as if clearing away a bad smell. Whatever are you talking about, Ms. Hayes? Yes, there's an engagement between the Hayes and Vance families, but where does it say it has to be with me? You and this bastard seem quite close. It looks like congratulations are in order. I almost managed to make her faint from sheer rage. She never cared who the engagement was with, only about the profits it would bring. But right now, I was still the one in charge of Vance Holdings. My father had already tried to have me replaced, but the board flatly rejected him. As for transferring shares, I hadn't given him the slightest opportunity. Sophia took a step closer. Ethan, what are you trying to say? Everyone in Chicago knows I'm your fiancé. This bitch. Before she could finish, Isabella's hand cracked across her face. The entire room went silent. Isabella stared at her coldly. Sophia Hayes, is it? The people in this room aren't blind. They know what's going on, so you can spare us the moral outrage. You have the nerve to pull a stunt like this before you're even married? Your family must be so proud of your upbringing. She then turned to her assistant. Give me some hand sanitizer. The disinfecting kind. I feel filthy. She shook her hand dismissively, as if slapping Sophia had been a great personal hardship. Sophia glanced frantically at Caleb, who was now staring at me with pure hatred in his eyes. Ethan Vance, he snarled, you will regret this. I gently took the disinfectant wipe from Isabella and cleaned her hand, a slow smile spreading across my face as I looked at Sophia. Regret? Are you referring to your nearly bankrupt family business? Don't worry. If you manage to sign a single contract today, I'll take your name. The contract, of course, was never signed, but the day wasn't a total loss. With a little push from interested parties, news of Sophia and Caleb exploded online. Hashtag Vance are in jealous rage. Hashtag family fortune feud. Hashtag Hayes Heiress finds new love. Hashtag corporate succession battle. I read the trending topics on Twitter, a small smile playing on my lips. Isabella walked in with a cup of coffee. Need any help fanning the flames? I kissed her on the cheek. Bathed in the morning light, she was irresistible. It took me a moment to regain my composure. No need. Just sit back and enjoy the show. She smiled like a sly fox. You're planning to roast them alive, aren't you? I nodded. Of course. Trash like this is best left to devour itself. There's no need to get our hands dirty. A wicked grin touched her lips. All right, I'll watch with you. But right now, it's afternoon tea time. I glanced at the clock. It was only 10 in the morning. Looking at the beautiful, mischievous woman before me, I didn't argue. I scooped her in my arms and carried her to the bedroom. A beautiful woman is the best cure for a broken heart. Aside from being hell on your back, there are no downsides. And when we emerged, it was, in fact, time for afternoon tea. Isabella lay contentedly against my chest, tracing circles on my skin. Ethan, there's a party tonight. Will you come with me? I raised an eyebrow. What kind of party? The Hayes family is hosting it. They're trying to beg the Rossies for mercy, or at the very least, find some new investors. A wide grin spread across my face. We have to go. We'll burn the whole thing to the ground. But when we get back, I want to try out that new equipment you bought. That evening, Isabella and I made a grand entrance, her arm linked through mine. She wore a stunning red gown that completely stole the spotlight, making it clear we weren't just guests. We were the main event. The moment we appeared, all eyes were on us. Sophia was in a corner, champagne flute in hand, desperately trying to charm potential investors. The instant she saw me, her face fell. Caleb, standing beside her, instinctively frowned. Their recent clashes with me had left them soundly defeated. Even my father's proposal to replace me as CEO had been shot down by the board. My lips curved into a slight smile as I gently tucked a stray strand of Isabella's hair behind her ear. Ready, my love? If we're going to crash a party, we might as well do it in front of the hosts. Sophia's father hurried over to greet us. He clearly didn't want me there, but he was forced to play the gracious host. Ethan, Ms. Rossi, so glad you could make it. Welcome. Isabella gave a haughty sniff while I offered a polite smile. Good to see you, Mr. Hayes. I was just wondering, have you set a date for Sophia and Caleb's wedding yet? I made sure my voice was loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. Sophia's father looked deeply uncomfortable, unsure how to respond. Hearing my question, Sophia couldn't take it anymore. She marched over. Ethan Vance? What do you think you're doing? I feigned surprise. Why, it's the lady of the hour, Ms. Hayes. What a coincidence. We were just talking about your wedding. Congratulations. She glared at me, her teeth clenched. You're doing this on purpose, aren't you? I shrugged innocently. On purpose? Is there a problem with my fiancé and I congratulating you on your impending nuptials? I enunciated impending nuptials with deliberate clarity. Sophia's face was pale with fury. Caleb followed her, his earlier arrogance replaced with a submissive demeanor. That didn't sit right with me either. Brother, please don't be like this. The Hayes family today. I cut him off with a cold snort. Excuse me, sir, but please don't claim relations that don't exist. My mother only had one child. I'm not like some people who can't keep it in their pants. Isabella tightened her grip on my arm, her voice carrying across the silent room. Well, it seems we're not welcome here. In that case, I suppose the party's over. Everyone can go home. Her words made Sophia's hands tremble. The look in her eyes could have killed me. With our little disruption, the party's atmosphere soured completely. But what do we care? We were heading home. I had a multi-billion-dollar deal to close with Isabella tonight. There was no time to waste. At the exit, Sophia blocked my path. Ethan, we need to talk. I was about to get into the car. I turned, a smirk on my face. Talk about what? I have absolutely no interest in your romantic history. She grabbed the car door, her knuckles white. Ethan, do you have to be so vengeful? Are you really not going to stop until you've destroyed my family? I kicked her hand away from the door and laughed coldly. Vengeful? You're damn right I am. Sophia, not only am I going to take back everything, I'm going to take it back with interest. And trust me, it's compounding daily. Her breathing grew ragged. Ethan, we grew up together. More than a decade of history. You're trying to throw it all away. I got into the car, and just before I closed the door, I delivered one final blow. History? You dare talk about history? You're nothing but a cheap commodity, sold for a contract. I bet if a homeless man on the street could offer you a deal, you'd get on your knees and call him daddy. My words left her speechless. The next morning, Vance Holdings and the Rossi family jointly announced our engagement. Within hours, all of Hayes Industries' desperate efforts were undone. The business world is full of sharks who can smell blood in the water. An illegitimate son and a family being targeted by two corporate giants? They were a toxic asset everyone was scrambling to dump. Sophia tried to call, but I'd already blocked her number. A week later, Hayes Industries' stock had plummeted into oblivion. Sophia's father came to my office to personally apologize. Sophia trailed behind him, her face a mask of misery. Ethan, it was all Sophia's fault. She was being childish. The affairs of you young people. We elders shouldn't get involved. I remained seated at my desk. Isabella stood behind me, her hand on my shoulder. She said she needed to keep a close eye on me, just in case I had a moment of weakness. Mr. Hayes, I'm afraid I can't help you, I said calmly. When you make a mistake, you have to pay the price. His face darkened. He spun around and slapped Sophia hard across the face several times. You worthless girl. Get on your knees. Sophia stumbled, dazed, then looked up at me with defiance. Ethan, do you really have to do this? Isabella is just using you. If you save my family, I promise I'll break things off with Caleb for good. Isabella did not appreciate that. She looked down at Sophia, her voice like ice. Ms. Hayes, you'd better watch your mouth. I haven't even started to play yet. I gently squeezed Isabella's hand and let out a soft chuckle. Sophia, do you really think the world revolves around you? Do you think Caleb can get a foothold in the Vance family just because my father favors him? Let me be clear. If I don't give the word, my own father will be packing his bags. At that, all the fight went out of Sophia. She fell to her knees with a thud. Ethan, I'm begging you. Whatever you want, just please spare my family. She started to crawl toward me, trying to grab my legs. Isabella, of course, wasn't having it. She grabbed a fistful of Sophia's hair and delivered a dozen sharp slaps across her face. Then, as if leading a dog on a leash, she dragged her by the hair into my private lounge. I put a hand on Mr. Hayes' arm, stopping him from following. Sir, if you want to solve this problem, you'll stay out of it. No one knows what happened in that lounge. All I know is that when Sophia came out, she looked like a ghost. Her face was still red with slap marks, but no new ones had appeared. Knowing Isabella, though, I suspected Sophia had endured a far more thorough and humiliating punishment. The fact that Isabella's stilettos were now gleaming told me everything I needed to know. You can't get that kind of shine from a simple wipe down. After the Hayes left, Isabella draped herself over my lap playfully. Don't worry, Ethan. Since they're so stubborn, I won't let Sophia off the hook. In a few days, they'll be at each other's throats. I tried asking her what she'd done to Sophia, but all I ever got was a dismissive eye roll. If I pressed the issue, she just pushed me down on the couch. You must still have feelings for her if you're this curious. I'd better drain you completely, just to be sure. This life of painful pleasure didn't last long. Just 3 days later, Caleb was in a car accident. It was a nasty scene. A motorcycle, with no license plate, had slammed into him and vanished. The authorities had no leads. Caleb was the unlucky one. Both of his legs were broken. 3 limbs gone in an instant. My father called me soon after, his voice strained. Ethan, you've gone too far. He was trying to suppress his rage, but I could hear it simmering beneath the surface. My mother had always been the dominant one, a true titan of business. He'd lived in her shadow for so long, and now that she was gone, he was overcompensating, lashing out. It explained why he was so determined to prop up that worthless bastard, Caleb. Fortunately, the board of directors only cares about money. And fortunately, the Hayes family never had any principles to begin with. All I did was give them an opportunity. Are you going to say something? He yelled into the phone. Do you have any idea how much money you've cost this company by cutting ties with the Hayeses? And why are you crushing Caleb like this? He's your brother. Don't you dare tell me you know nothing about that accident. You're the real monster here. I held the phone away from my ear. The noise was giving me a headache. So what if I am? I said calmly. You were so supportive of him and Sophia. Why don't you let them start their own company? True love is priceless. After all, I'm sure they'd be perfectly happy collecting cans on the street. As for the accident, I really don't know anything about it. If you have a problem, call the police. The sound on the other end was like a tractor engine about to seize. It was a long time before he spoke again. I wondered if he'd had to take a nitroglycerin pill. What do you want? He finally managed to say, I won't interfere with the Hayes situation anymore, but Caleb is still your brother. I laughed softly. Fine, I can spare Caleb, but I want him to take down the Hayes family himself. Whatever he can get from them is his. But he won't touch a single penny from Vance Holdings. And I never want to see a single member of the Hayes family again. There was silence on the other end. I knew he was weighing his options. He wasn't a great businessman, but he could read the writing on the wall. Finally, his tone softened. Ethan, I know you're angry, but I think we can still negotiate. I glanced at the time, my voice flat. Don't bother playing the family card with me. The moment you acknowledged Caleb, we became nothing more than a biological fact. If you don't want to watch that bastard live a miserable life, you'll do as I say. I have work to do. You think about it. My voice wasn't cold, but it was sharper than any knife. The silence on the other end of the line was long and heavy. I tossed my phone onto the desk and closed my eyes, mapping out my next moves. I didn't hear Isabella come in until her hands were gently massaging my temples. Bad day. Want to get some exercise? The moment I saw her, my mood lifted. I pulled her onto my lap, wrapping my arms around her and stroking her back. It's nothing, I said, just marveling at how fickle people are. To risk the entire Vance empire for an illegitimate son, and the Hayes family, jumping ship so quickly. Did they really think one Caleb Reed could change the tide? Luckily for me, they were stupid. They never went after the one thing that matters, company shares. As for everything else, I won't let them get away with it. During this period, as the pressure from the Vance and Rossi families eased, the Hayeses understood what was expected of them. Sophia, finally accepting reality, started coming after me again. I was just leaving the office when I saw her standing in front of that familiar red sports car, a gift in her hands. The sun caught her face just right. She was wearing light makeup. The bruises had healed quickly. The woman certainly knew how to play to her strengths, always presenting the most appealing version of herself. Ethan, I've been waiting for you. Her eyes lit up when she saw me. She hurried over to block my path, her voice unbelievably gentle, her gaze as deep and adoring as if she were hopelessly in love. I frowned. Her perfume was overpowering, cloying, not like Isabella's, whose subtle scent was always an invitation. Sorry, you have the wrong person. She dropped to her knees with a thud and grabbed my arm. Ethan, you have to listen to me. Just 5 minutes, please. I have something you need to hear. I did what you asked. Please, don't turn me away. I looked down at her exquisite face, a face that once drove me wild in the middle of the night, leaving me exhausted and satisfied. Now it just made me feel sick. I shook her hand off in disgust. Sophia, it's too late for regrets. Do you know what you look like right now? She stared at me, confused. You look like a stray dog, desperate for its master's pity. Her face paled, but she didn't give up. I turned to leave, but she wrapped her arms around my leg, holding on for dear life. Ethan, I did what you asked, she cried. I grabbed a handful of her hair. She winced in pain, her face contorting, but she didn't let go. You don't need to wag your tail for me. Save your energy. I'm not taking you back. As for Caleb, what you've done isn't enough. Sophia's face turned green. She knew her family's situation better than anyone. They were a shadow of their former selves. They wanted to keep going after Caleb, but they simply lacked the resources. My father and his bastard son still had money to fight back. Ethan, I understand, she whispered. I'll keep trying. I patted her cheek condescendingly. That's a good girl. Behave. Otherwise, next time I'll send Isabella to talk to you. At the mention of Isabella's name, Sophia flinched. As I settled into my car, my expression turned to ice. I looked at my assistant. Why hasn't my family made a move yet? Apply more pressure. Caleb and Sophia went at each other like rabid dogs. One day, he'd get hit by a car. The next, he'd get jumped in an alley. They fought tooth and nail over what little was left of the Hayes family's assets. I had no time for their petty squabbles. With Isabella's help, Hayes Industries finally came under my control, and I didn't leave a single scrap for Caleb. As I'd said, it was every man for himself. Seeing me consolidate my power over both companies, my father finally panicked. "Ethan, are you really this ruthless?" He pleaded over the phone. "Just give Caleb some money, send him abroad. He'll promise never to come back. Can you do that?" I looked at the man on the video call, who seemed to have aged 10 years in a week, and I smiled faintly. "No," I said softly. "Either you get rid of him for good, or you both face the consequences." Realizing he was completely cornered, Caleb abandoned his last shred of hope. A week later, a pair of detectives showed up at Vance Holdings. "Mr. Vance, we're sorry to interrupt, but we need your cooperation regarding a serious incident." I nodded calmly. "Of course. As a law-abiding citizen, it's my duty to cooperate." The lead detective gave a curt nod. It turned out that a few days earlier, the entire Hayes family had driven their car into a lake. By the time they were found, the bodies were already floating. "Based on our preliminary investigation, we do not believe this was an accident or a suicide," he said, his eyes studying me intently. I shrugged. "I'm sorry to hear that. While the Hayes family and I had our disagreements, it certainly wasn't enough to commit murder. I have too much money to risk it all over a few pieces of trash. It's simply not worth it. Rest assured, my legal team will offer their full cooperation." My assistant had been remarkably efficient. Within half a day, all the evidence pointed directly to Caleb Reed. Unsurprisingly, with 5 bodies on his hands, no matter how much he denied it, the outcome was inevitable. As for my father, he couldn't handle the shock. He had a complete mental breakdown. Being a dutiful son, I followed his doctor's advice and bought him a lovely little villa in South America, with strict instructions that he was never to set foot in this country again.